But today I'd like to begin by congratulating, wishing Mr. Trudeau a happy retirement and all the best to his family, and congratulating Mr. Trudeau's economic advisor, Mark Carney, on becoming Prime Minister only 3 months after he moved his headquarters out of Canada to New York, moving jobs away from Canada. Today, Liberals are trying to trick Canadians into electing them for a 4th term in power, with a cabinet that is 87% the same as Trudeau's cabinet. 100% of today's Liberal cabinet were in Justin Trudeau's Liberal caucus. These same Liberal MPs voted to hike the carbon tax, double the debt, double food bank lineups, and double housing costs. The same Liberals all supported blocking pipelines, LNG plants, and passing the anti-energy law C-69 that has made Canada even more reliant on the U.S. Stephen Guilbeault, for example, the radical anti-development activist twice arrested for climbing buildings illegally to block resource projects, a self-described, and I quote, socialist, has been promoted to be the minister responsible for all of Quebec, but also responsible, according to Mr. Carney, for nature. That means nothing will get built anywhere in Canada because he will be standing in the way. Meanwhile, all of Trudeau's Liberal advisors, Gerald Butts and Tom Pitfield, are now top Carney advisors. They were in attendance today, not even hiding that they're still the ones running the show. The same people who ran Justin Trudeau are now running Mark Carney. Carney's chief of staff, his Liberal chief of staff, is a former Trudeau minister forced to resign for many scandals, including lying about moving Paul Bernardo out of a maximum security prison. You see, Mark Carney thinks Canadians are stupid. He thinks that a little bit of cosmetic surgery will allow the Liberals to disguise who they are and make people forget what they did for 10 years in order to elect them to a 4th Liberal term. But it's the same Liberal gang with the same Liberal agenda, the same Liberal results, and the same Liberal promises of the last 10 years. Only they want you to be fooled, and they want to take 4 terms. Carbon tax Carney will try later today to pull another fast one. This one's going to be very sneaky, very sneaky. I call it the carbon tax con job. I told you this was going to happen, by the way. Don't say I didn't warn you. He's going to hide the consumer carbon tax for 60 days, and if he's reelected, he'll bring it back bigger than ever with no rebate. Let's be clear. He says that the carbon tax he intends to bring in after the election will be a, quote, shadow carbon tax. And we know that he loves carbon taxes because he publicly advised Trudeau over the last 5 years to raise the taxes even more. But here's what I've got. This is the Liberal carbon tax law. This law cannot be eliminated unless Parliament resumes to vote it down. Mr. Carney could have asked Trudeau to do that months ago. Mr. Carney could have reconvened Parliament today to vote this law down, but he won't. He will keep the carbon tax law in place even while he temporarily hides the carbon tax from the gas pump for 60 days leading up to the election. And after that election, if God forbid he were reelected, there would be a bigger carbon tax than ever before, because Carney would no longer need your vote, but he'd still need your money. Canadians know that over 10 years, the Trudeau-Carney Liberals doubled the debt, doubled housing costs, and doubled food bank lineups. They've made us weak facing the Americans. Giving the Liberals a fourth term will not change any of that. If you cannot afford food or a home after 3 terms of Liberals, nothing will change after 4. If you're worried Canada is drowning in debt and taxes after 3 terms of these Liberals, that will not change after a 4th term. If you're afraid of crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder after 3 terms of these Liberals, nothing will change after the 4th term. If you are a senior choosing between heating and eating after 3 terms of Liberals, nothing will change after a 4th term. And if you're worried that Canada can't get anything built, and that our economy has become helpless and dependent on the Americans after 3 terms of the Liberals, that will not change after a 4th term. And it certainly will not change with a heavily conflicted Prime Minister who already sold out Canada to move his headquarters to the U.S. only days after President Trump threatened tariffs to steal our jobs. Carney put himself first. Conservatives will put Canada first. Putting Canada first means taking back control of our economy and relaunching our industries. It means confronting President Trump to his face, hitting back with counter tariffs, but it also means making Canada stronger at home. It'll mean bringing in a massive, beautiful, patriotic, bring-it-home tax cut on work, investment, energy, home building, and making stuff in Canada. A tax cut that will allow you to get ahead through your own hard work with lower income tax. We will cut bureaucracy, debt, and taxes. We'll take GST off homes so that you can save up to $50,000 while we incentivize municipalities to speed up permits, free up land, and cut development charges. We'll axe the carbon tax forever, for good, and for real. We'll also repeal Liberal laws like the No New Pipelines Act, C-69, and instead grant rapid permission to our companies to build more pipelines, more natural gas exports, more data centers, mines, and other natural resources to bring home powerful paychecks and production to our people. We will carry out the biggest crackdown on crime and drugs in Canadian history. Our borders will be secured, and our military will be strong. We will be self-reliant, sovereign, and stand on our own 2 feet as we stand up to the Americans. To stand up for ourselves, we will reward work, unleash entrepreneurs, harvest resources, make our own goods, trade with each other, build homes for our youth, rebuild our borders and military, honor our history, and raise our flag to restore Canada's promise that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful home, on a safe street, protected by solid borders and brave troops under a proud Canadian flag. Canada first. Let's bring it home.
Thank you. We will now take questions on the floor.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre, Alexa Lavoie for Ribbon News. If you can answer the question in French and in English. So my question is about the Liberal contest. The Liberals say that nearly 400,000 people registered to vote in their leadership contest, but only 150,000 of those were verified, and they have not explained why nearly 250,000 voters were disqualified or otherwise didn't vote. And the riding-by-riding results are remarkable. Karina Gould only got 190 votes in her own district, and Chrystia Freeland only received 188. How concerned are you about the integrity of Carney's mandate?
First of all, Mr. Carney has no mandate. He has not been elected by the Canadian people. He's been installed by the Liberal establishment and Justin Trudeau's insiders. They prevented people from debating him. They've been hiding from the media because every time he answers questions, he gets caught in lies or says incredibly idiotic things. As for the Liberal leadership result, those numbers are either just pathetically low because Canadians did not want to vote for a weak, conflicted Mark Carney who had sold out the country by moving jobs and money out of Canada, or they show something more suspicious. But unfortunately, I don't have all the details. All I can say is that it is a very small number of people that voted in the Liberal leadership race, much smaller than in ours. We excited people because people thought this is a chance to bring home the Canada that we knew and still love, where you can work hard and have a great life, where you can afford a home and where seniors can put food on their tables, where our streets are safe. That's one of the reasons why I was blessed to receive the biggest number of votes of any leadership candidate in Canadian history that I'm aware of. Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. The question in French was about whether I think that Mark Carney will abolish the carbon tax. Well, the truth is he can't do that without recalling Parliament. This is the carbon tax law. It's in place today. Until Parliament is recalled, this carbon tax law will be the law of the land. What he might do is hide the carbon tax by telling CRA to stop collecting it for 2 months before the election. So let me ask you if you think this is a believable proposition. 100% of his ministers voted dozens of times not just to impose the carbon tax, but to raise it. Mr. Carney, his only public criticism of the Liberal carbon tax was that it was not high enough. They've had this tax now for over 7 years. The law that they still have in place would quadruple it to 61 cents a litre. And you believe that they're not going to bring it back 2 days after the election? Well, I think Mr. Carney has some land he might sell you in Florida, some swampland he might sell you in Florida if you believe that whopper. The reality is that Mr. Carney loves carbon taxes, and if you elect him, you will pay a brutal price. And he has also said he will be bringing in a shadow carbon tax targeting Canadian industry, and he has specifically singled out steel. There will be tens of thousands of steel, aluminum, cement, and other industrial jobs lost under Carney's carbon tax. The combination of Trump tariffs and Carney's carbon tax will destroy our industrial sector and make us hopelessly dependent on the Americans, all while profiting Mark Carney's personal investments in other countries, investments that he still knows he has, investments that, like the carbon tax, he just wants to hide. The good news is that common sense conservatives will axe the tax for real, for everyone, for good. We will make sure it never comes back. There is only one way to axe this tax, and it is to vote for the Canada First Conservatives.
Thank you. Next question, prochaine question.
Good afternoon, Evan Dyer, CBC News. If you could answer in English and French also. If elected Prime Minister, do you still intend to fire the Governor of the Bank of Canada?
My view is that if waitresses, barbers, mechanics, or other people don't do their jobs, they get fired. You know, Mark Carney should have been fired when he was the head of the Bank of England, and he acted as, in the words of the London Telegraph, as an unreliable boyfriend, changing his mind constantly, printing too much money, which led to inflation. But he doesn't think that people like him should ever get fired. They should just get promoted after they raise people's costs and ruin people's lives. I disagree. I believe that government officials should be accountable for their decisions, and when they fail, government officials should be fired. That is how the life works in the real world, and that is how life will work when I am Prime Minister of Canada.
Thank you. Next question, prochaine question.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre, Colton Prale with CTV. Again, French and English if you could. A month ago, your party was up 20 points in the polls. Now you're statistically tied. What does that say about your leadership?
Well, I think that the choice that Canadians will face is whether they want to give the Liberals a fourth term after they doubled housing costs, doubled food prices, doubled the national debt, and made our economy weak and reliant on the Americans. Whether they want to elect somebody who sold out the country to ship jobs to New York and out of our country, and who has brutal conflicts of interest that will have him working against Canada in the future. Or whether they want Canada First Conservatives who will axe taxes, build homes, fix the budget, and most importantly of all, unleash our economic independence by building pipelines, mines, LNG plants, and other economic infrastructure that will allow us to sell to ourselves and the rest of the world. That is the choice. More of the same with a fourth Liberal term, or Canada First change for the Canadian people.
Thank you. We will go to the final question.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre. Sarah McFarlane with iPolitics, and in French and English, if you don't mind. This week, Canadians heard Ontario Premier Doug Ford, a Conservative, praised the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, saying that he can, quote, smooth things with Trump and has an astute business mind that will appeal to the president. How would you convince voters otherwise?
By reminding them that the choice is, do you want to elect Liberals to a fourth term after they doubled the debt, doubled housing costs, doubled food bank lineups, doubled gun crime, and weakened our economy, making it more dependent on the United States? Or do they want to vote for common sense, Canada First Conservatives, who will axe taxes, build homes, fix the budget, stop the crime, and unleash production and paychecks so that we can declare our full economic independence from the Americans? That is the choice that Canadians will face. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes today's press conference.
Thank you very much.